All right, so this is standard 5.2. We're going to talk about motor skills. So by the end of this standard, you should be able to identify that motor skills are the coordinated movement of body parts. So our essential question today is, what is the difference between fine and gross motor skills? Provide an example of each. Okay. All right. So you should be able to do this activity. This is going to be one of your branches. But I'm going to give you the notes that you need first, and then we'll come back and you'll be able to do the activity. Okay. So fine and gross motor skills. So fine motor skills use small muscles. They're the use of smaller muscles of the hands. Common activities include things like using pencils, scissors, constructing with small blocks, doing up buttons, and opening lunch boxes. Those are all fine motor skills. Gross motor skills, on the other hand, require our large muscles. So these require either whole body movement or involve the large core stabilizing muscles of the body to perform everyday functions. Things like standing up and walking, running and jumping, and sitting up at the table, right? Those are gross motor skills. So here's a video that's going to explain the difference between fine and gross motor skills.
Many parents are often confused about the difference between gross motor skills and fine motor skills. Gross motor skills are when children learn to make movements with all of their muscles and joints. So it's things like walking, crawling, running, jumping, climbing, anything where they need to use all of their muscles and limbs in a coordinated way. Oftentimes, gross motor skills are related to their core strength. So how strong their trunk muscles are, can they sit up straight, do they have good control and coordination to run and jump and climb and do that in a way that is coordinated. Fine motor skills are built on your gross motor skills. Often, in order to have good quality, strong fine motor skills, you need to have solid gross motor skills. So for fine motor skills, we're looking at things like how children hold their pencil. Are they able to cut with scissors? Do they hold their utensils properly when they're eating? So it's really how they use the smaller muscles in their hands to coordinate doing more precise and accurate motions. If your child has difficulty with gross motor skills, some ways to help improve their gross motor skills is sometimes to involve them in community activities. Many children like to participate in swimming, they do karate, they play soccer, they find activities in their community that can help them work on building their core muscle strength and their coordination. If kids have difficulty with their fine motor skills, there's many things that you can do as a parent to help improve them. Sometimes it's sitting down and playing a board game, playing with toys, finding an arts and crafts activity that really works on them using those smaller muscles of their hands to do something that's really fun. Some children may have poor coordination. They may have difficulty with their fine motor skills, but it really comes down to their function and how much it differs than other kids who are the same age. If you're a parent that might have concerns about your child's gross motor and fine motor skills because they are impacting their everyday living skills on how they hold their utensils, whether or not they're able to get dressed and manipulate fasteners with their hands, it might be best to talk to your pediatrician and find a pediatric occupational therapist who can evaluate them and get you more information on where their skills are in relationship to kids who are the same age.
All right. So that's a little bit more about fine and gross motor skills. So here are some things that parents can do to help develop these motor skills in children. So for fine motor skills, you can allow your child to help with meals, allow children to try getting dressed on their own, encourage painting, encourage writing and drawing, play board games and puzzles with them, create with Play-Doh, teach them to tie their shoes. Okay. Then gross motor, hiking on uneven terrain can help. Sidewalk chalk, hula hoops and jump ropes, bike riding, swinging, dancing, all those things can help with gross motor skills. So now I'm gonna have you watch this video. About fine motor skills.
Fine motor skills involve the small muscles in the body that enable movement in the fingers, feet and toes, and face, including the mouth and eyes. Developing fine motor control helps us gain coordination between these muscles, for example, hand-eye coordination. Fine motor skills are a part of whole body physicality. They empower children to navigate the world with confidence and independence. It's important that we understand fine motor control and fine motor skills don't happen separately to the rest of physicality, so they are actually very dependent on gross motor development as well, for example. And in terms of thinking about children and their whole body development, how do you promote that in your practice?
I just think about what I see children do at the centre every day, whether it's getting the fire ready and kind of chopping up food and putting on the fire to cook, or whether they're gardening and sort of digging down or travelling down into the soil and taking out the seeds or taking out the plug of the plant and planting that. They don't separate out their bodies when they're doing it. It actually is all happening at the same time.
I think it's really interesting actually to think about physical development being as that holistic approach to learning and development. So not looking into solely about fine and gross, because they are so intertwined, but also with the rest of all of their learning and development. You know, physical development is a real gateway to learning and development in all areas of child development. Beyond the early years foundation stage, you know, it's really thinking about actually that their brain is passing on messages to their body, and the relationship between those two will then give children the opportunity to seek what they desire.
So let's have a think about purposeful tasks and play.
I think one of the key things for us at our settings is making time in our routines to allow the day-to-day activities like putting on coats and doing up zips and doing our own shoes and getting our waterproofs on a rainy day have a huge impact on making every task purposeful. So we're creating learning opportunities and allowing learning opportunities within what could be seen as quite mundane tasks. Meal times, for example, we make sure that children have access to self-service.
I'm also thinking about those everyday experiences in our provision, like, you know, malleable stuff of foam and clay, and the idea that children come to that using those fine motor skills of pinching and stretching and rolling and pulling, and they will naturally provide those playful experiences, will naturally provide children opportunities to develop those fine motor skills.
Let's talk a little bit about how we encourage independence.
Yeah, so I think the environment provides, and it's the adult's role to model and support and scaffold learning. So a really good example about that is having scissors out in the environment, but supporting children how to use them safely, but also differentiating that for some children who might take longer to be confident in using them, and having spring-loaded scissors or double-handed scissors, and giving children lots of opportunity to kind of use them on different materials.
I think that differentiation is a really interesting thought, actually, especially if we're thinking about differentiated early years outcomes for children with special educational needs and disabilities, that really gives us an opportunity to look at those really tiny steps of learning and development and be able to celebrate and achieve those.
Fine motor skills are a part of whole body physicality and depend upon well-developed gross motor skills, core strength and coordination. Having good fine motor control empowers the child, promotes confidence and independence.
All play is a purposeful task for children. The environment we create, full of tape, glue, scissors, provides them with a rich opportunity to develop fine motor skills.
Loving, trustful relationships between adults and children allow for independence to grow naturally within the play environment.
All right, there you have it. Fine and gross motor skills work together. All right. Okay, I will see you in the next one.